It's exactly 5 years now since MOOCs, massive open online courses for those of you new to the term, swept through the global higher education market. MOOCs are online courses, often between 2 and 10 weeks long, which draw thousands of people to learn together, in some cases tens or even hundreds of thousands. And in January 2013, Thomas Friedman, the New York Times columnist, said the following on the topic: "Nothing has more potential to lift more people out of poverty by providing them an affordable education to get a job or improve in the job they have. Nothing has more potential to unlock 1 billion more brains to solve the world's biggest problems. And nothing has more potential to enable us to reimagine higher education." Now, those are bold words. And I've spent the 4 years since launching FutureLearn having to confront some of the overhype that this represents, as well as the equally unfitting dismissal of MOOCs that many skeptics, provoked by this digital utopianism, have often, sometimes gleefully, pronounced. And I had experience of this at the BBC as well, as each new technology and new entrant, from the MP3 to Napster to Netflix, was hailed as the death of radio, the death of TV, and of course of the BBC itself, or was dismissed as just the latest technology fad that wouldn't really impact how we did things here. More proportionate responses are required to new technology, not to comfort the complacent, but to inspire and catalyse real transformation. But my more immersed market perspective now is going to lead me, at times, to sound as idealistic as Friedman did 4 years ago, and maybe even to agree with him on some points, but hopefully with a bit more proportion in the timing and scale of the challenge. Because there's no question that the potential to transform access to education is in our hands. And what's more, only the internet can enable us to adequately scale the provision of education to meet the exponentially increasing needs of the world. Yet the internet is a tool, not a solution in itself. And while MOOCs are an incredibly powerful catalyst for rapid change in the industry, they're just one element in a much broader digital transformation. And more than just broadcasting information to people, to which many of the early online learning providers have limited themselves, more even than just reaching people, we must reach, engage, and inspire them so that they're empowered to change their own lives and ultimately the world. And the key opportunity that we at FutureLearn are focused on to harness that potential brought by the internet is social learning. And indeed, bringing a collaborative, peer-to-peer element to education is one of the internet's greatest offers to education, we believe. Let's look back 50 years for some context. In 1964, the newly elected leader of the Labour Party, Harold Wilson, had a vision to create something he termed the University of the Air. His first address at the Labour Party conference in Scarborough became known as the White Heat speech, because he said, "The Britain that is going to be forged in the white heat of this revolution will be no place for restrictive practices or for outdated methods." It was intended to provide a wake-up call to those involved in education and industry about the impact on society that rapidly advancing technology was going to have. The white paper that followed 2 years later, when Labour were elected to power, recognised that whilst the traditional degree is important, the new economy would need a range of skills that traditional approaches to education were, and still are, too slow to deliver. And I'm sure that Harold Wilson was sometimes accused of overhyping at that time. And yet, the University of the Air, of course, became what we now know as the Open University, the founder and the whole owner of FutureLearn. And it's difficult to overestimate the impact it has had on education in the UK and the effect of its founding and pioneering work in distance and online learning on the many open universities that have sprung up around the world subsequently. So back to today, and 27% of British citizens have a degree, compared to 18% in 2004 and just 5% in 1966. But we know that progression from school to the next educational level remains a huge challenge. I was at a dinner with some current undergraduate students recently and was saddened to hear the student president for a top UK university regretting that she's chosen university. Another wishing he had been better informed at school, where university was presented as the only next option, rather than force himself into debt. And their decisions were driven by their financial situation. We need to do more for school leavers of all ages, and we can move beyond the worthy but still relatively small-scale attempts at widening participation that are attempting to break down barriers that still exist to block many from progressing in education. Open, flexible and affordable education provides people with the skills required in the modern economy and enables us to confront the major global challenges of our time, from climate change to skills gaps. And that's why those involved in education need to embrace change and deliver the kind of education digital consumers now expect. As in the 60s, the white heater revolution will be no place for outdated methods or restrictive practices. And this requires us to work together, embrace change, and meet the changing needs of learners all around the world.